Necrit says Genshin Impact is the best live service he has ever played.
So, at the current pace of how fast we are releasing videos, I realized one thing. We're going without a script. I mean, making videos without a script is the dream of every YouTuber, right? But lately, it just so happens to be that every time I blink, there is a new topic to talk about.
I used to have a script, and the reason why I stopped scripting my videos and like having them like kind of edited and like doing cuts in my videos, the reason why I do everything one take is not because I'm some sort of great speaker. It's because I don't want to have to edit. That's it. That's the only real reason. I didn't want to have to edit them. I didn't want to have to write a script. So I would just think everything out in my head. Okay, let's go.
I literally just finished Genshin. You can't do this to me again.
They are so big.
You know what? Yeah, they can. Because at this point, Hoyoverse really earned my trust. So, why don't we talk about the best and I believe the most underappreciated part of Genshin. Now, the last time I talked about this game, I had only 30 hours in the game and I was making more of a first impression review.
Sure.
Currently, I am sitting at well over 600 hours.
Holy fuck! Didn't he start playing this like 2 months ago?
I have about 100 hours streamed and I definitely played at least 5 times that amount off stream. But unfortunately there is no official way to track the numbers. And that is all in just the last...
That's probably a good thing.
3 months or so. And yeah, in case you don't know, I somehow kinda created 2 audiences for me. There is my League audience on YouTube, but on Twitch I actually have a totally separate segment, which is my Genshin audience. And now I'm just trying to bleed the 2 sides into each other.
League isn't a very good game to stream unless you're a super competitive player. Or you're like very entertaining or something like that. Like it's very hard to stream League and be entertaining.
Here we are! If we want to talk about why Genshin is a great live service game, let's first talk about what Genshin does well. Genshin is a very simple and easy game. The point of everything is really to just consume the story.
Okay.
You can look for challenges and you can try hard, but if you try hard, you just speed up the gameplay. That's kind of the reward. But I would argue that in general, Genshin is actually the pinnacle of casual gaming. You can log in.
Oh, I would agree with that. I think anybody would. Yeah, Genshin Impact, this is the casual landy game. Absolutely.
Do your daily quests, spend your resources, and just log out in like 15 minutes and be happy. And if you don't do your dailies and you just don't want to play, then who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
This is such a nice change of mindset from all the other live services. So already, somehow, Genshin is a step ahead with the fact that it is a great casual game. But the story is also really good. Now, I have to mention that while some of the latest stories that came out are some of the best narrative I have ever seen in any game, the early content definitely had some rough edges.
I wonder if that's actually true, because that's what people told me about A Realm Reborn in Final Fantasy. And maybe this is a super unpopular opinion, but I actually kind of liked A Realm Reborn more than Heavensward. I felt like Heavensward was Lord of the Rings, and A Realm Reborn was Game of Thrones.
Without spoiling anything for all the people who have never played Genshin, it's not that the story in the early patches would be bad, it's just that the pacing was awful. There were times where you were doing taxes for 6 hours before
That's what people told me about Final Fantasy, and that part was true. Absolutely.
you got to the strong point in the story. Now the strong point was really good, but goddamn, sometimes the story can drag a lot. But thankfully they learned from their past mistakes, and these days the stories are simply really good. And there is a good reason
Right.
why Hoyoverse is focusing on good story first. Of course, in any video game, gameplay is king, and I can easily say that Genshin's combat is one of the best combat systems I have ever played.
Well, that's impressive. Holy shit. Yeah, I think that's one of the big things, is making sure the combat is actually good and fun to play. Like, I don't know why. So this is especially true, man. It's so especially true with Western developers. The game looks amazing. The voice acting is really good. The cinematics are great. The menus look really nice. But the game plays like fucking garbage. What the fuck are you doing? How is it that everything is good, except the gameplay? It drives me crazy.
When you then slap a good story on top of it, suddenly you have a world that feels alive. Over the years you can see how it is developing, and suddenly, with a good story behind the characters, you also start connecting with the characters. And keeping you engaged in this kind of stuff is really good for gacha games, because the more you like certain characters, the more likely you are to pull for them. So, in order to keep everyone hooked on the ever-developing world, Genshin gets a story update every month. Every month there is a major patch that adds in...
That is nuts to keep up with that much content for that long. Oh my god. Once a month.
New story quests for major characters.
It's 40
On
days.
top of that, you
6 weeks.
usually also get an
still
Archon quest, which pushes the main story forward. But also, roughly every 3 to 4 months, there is also a new sub-region, which usually gives you a new chunk of land to explore, but it also gives you new mechanics that help you explore that area.
See, I need to get in and play this game eventually, because, like, this is one of the things with Final Fantasy, is that one of the best things about playing new games is I can farm content about the new games. And it's like, whenever Final Fantasy releases new content, I can't really farm it because I haven't finished the old content. Very soon. It's going to be very soon, guys. Very soon.
Again, I don't want to spoil much, but yes, nearly every region has a new way of exploration. And then, of course, roughly every year, there is a whole new region, which comes with bunch of new stories, new exploration, stuff like that. Now, while as I'm explaining this formula may sound just fine, in reality, this formula for a live service game is so powerful that other games are now trying to copy it. For example, Diablo 4 was confirmed to also have...
She is so hot. But yeah, true.
Monthly updated stories. Because with these kinds of updates, you can really turn your game into a live service with a growing world. Now, I don't know if Genshin was the first game that really tried to push for this style of quick story updates. Because
which game really did that? I'm pretty sure other games did this in the past, but it's kind of like whenever you have a game that does something really, really well, and it becomes super popular, everybody just attributes everything to that game. It's kind of like the joke that I made about how every game that has a big tree is copying Elden Ring.
Obviously, as far as I know, in other games you usually had a bunch of big stories every expansion pack. But the quick short stories weren't really a thing. Needless to say, if you want to prove that it really works, just look at how other games are trying to copy what Genshin does.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I have a long history of covering the lore of League of Legends, which to this day I still believe is one of the most beautiful universes I have ever encountered. But we haven't seen a new story for this universe since October last year.
Well, wasn't Mage Seeker a story though? I feel like Mage Seeker was a story, wasn't it? Is that canon? I think it's canon. It's an old story? Oh, really? Okay, so it's just a retelling? Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's really the main reason why I'm kind of like exploring other games now. But you know, a good story wouldn't really be enough for a live service game to keep people engaged. A story can be as good as it wants to be, but without good gameplay, nobody will be there to experience it. Which is where Hoyoverse really shows their passion. Because on top of rolling out the monthly stories, they also have weekly events. And these can be anything from a tiny story to a combat arena where you get...
It's gotcha, Sif. That's good.
To try different characters with different power-ups and under special circumstances.
That's good.
These are essentially special game modes. Again, a great way to tease people into pulling for a character if they like them in combat. But these can also be
smart.
massive events with games.
Bro, like these two right here. Oh my god. Like, I feel like these two characters, I think her name is Yellen and this one is Hu Tao. I don't know what this one is. These two have farmed so many fucking simps. It is insane. All of the time. Like, there are so many fucking simps for these two characters. It is disgusting.
In games.
The best selling
I can't
banner?
believe
Yeah,
that one day I just logged into Genshin and I just played on the same day Guitar Hero, Pac-Man, and really weird...
How do you know them? Bro, I know who Jeffrey Dahmer is. That doesn't mean I'm a cannibal. Settle down.
Pokemon Snap. And on the next bigger event, I just played an auto-battler inside Genshin.
Oh, that's
they
great.
just casually made TFT and then let it go 2 weeks later.
There it
And
is.
apparently, I missed a lot of these events by not playing in the last 3 years.
Yeah, you should have played the game.
I was told they also made Prop Hunt, racing games, Flappy Birds, and God knows what. I have honestly never seen this level of passion be put into a game. And it's a gacha game.
I'll tell you guys that, like, for Honkai Star Rail, you know what really sold the game to me the most? What was the most fun that I had in the game? The most fun that I had was whenever I pulled the legendary character. All right. The second most fun that I had was whenever I got in the cupboard and it was this weird fucking dialogue of this person having these, like, fucking fantasies in their mind of hearing voices whenever they're sitting in a cupboard. And the reason why is because it was so fucking stupid. Like, that's why it was good. It was yeah, trash can lore. Yeah. That thing was so damn good. Yeah, actual schizo moment. Yes. And it was the Garbage King. Yes. It's clever, it's funny, and it's not, like, forced. It's not like it's not lay epic memers. It's not some sort of like, you know, like, it's not like, fuck. It's not like whenever a corporation does an April Fool's joke. It was just funny. It was lighthearted and funny and free-spirited.
They are supposed to be weird and shady.
It's natural, yeah.
Not good. And funnily enough, I've seen that people who have been playing Genshin for a very long time got spoiled by how good their events are. Apparently, when the Auto Battler came out, people were like, yeah, it's fine. Alright, back to farming artifacts. Like, it seems like the veteran players got numb to how awesome it is to have these rotating game modes in your main game. Meanwhile, I come from League. Yes, the last
That's
time
about it. Yeah, well, don't you have that one where you can play, like, one dude, it's called, like, ARAM or some shit, and you can just run in and kill people? That's about it, right?
A game mode that wasn't a recycle of an old one was, I believe, 2 years ago. I know it's a bit unfair to compare League to Hoyoverse. And Riot is also currently struggling with people leaving after COVID took its toll. But you know what? Yeah, we can compare them. It seems like this is what happened to...
Well, they're both games, and people decide to play one game or another game. Like, every game effectively competes with every game, because it's a marketplace of attention. Well, of course. I think the reason why people lose interest with League of Legends is that it's effectively the same game. It will always have a fan base, and people will always love it, but there's a scope for that, and people will grow tired of it after 10 years, especially. And the reason why Genshin is trying all these different game modes, by the way, is so they can get people to play the game in different ways, because people are probably tired of playing the game the ways that they've already played it for 3 or 4 years. World of Warcraft did this too. Like, I think successful games, one of the things that differentiates successful games is that successful games, you can play them in a lot of different ways. There are exceptions. You've got things like Counter-Strike. But in general, I think that's true.
League for focusing on the competitive play for so long, while kinda ignoring their casual players who still make the majority of their players.
It's like a good example of this. Yeah, they just do ignore casual players because it's a competitive game. It makes sense. But anyway, like, look at PoE, right? Like, think about PoE whenever it came out. You did maps, right? That's maps. You do maps, and then after you do maps, you do more maps. Then, now, what we've got is you've got Delve, you've got fucking bosses, you've got special maps that they've added, you have Delirium maps, which are kind of the same thing, but they're not exactly the same thing. And let's see, the Atlas, yeah, you have the Atlas stuff. Let's see, are there any more versions of playing the game? Oh, you had that, what was the one that we did? Heist? Yeah, I forgot all about Heist. I'd fucking do it. But then you had Heist, you had the new one. Temple's basically a map. And what's the new one from, like, Sanctum? So you had all this new stuff. And these are all different ways that people play the game.
And yeah, sometimes you need a little bit of a slap to pick yourself back up. I wish League would have the same live service updates that Genshin has. I genuinely wish for that. Actually, super quickly, there is one more thing that I almost forgot to mention. Even though Genshin has little to no real endgame, they have the Spiral Abyss, which is essentially a roguelike for your max level characters where you just go and kill some bosses.
Wow.
But every 2 weeks, they actually rotate all the enemies on all the endgame floors. And sometimes they introduce new enemies into this roguelike, which you can't find anywhere else in the game. So even if you don't care about any of the minigames and you just wanna fight and you don't even care about the story, they still update that as well. So yeah, I just quickly wanted to mention that even without a real endgame, they are still updating the endgame. On top of that, Honkai Star
Rail... Well, it's also that the reality is that the amount of hardcore players that really care about the endgame is not that many. But the thing is that all of those hardcore players are on the internet. And they're all giving their feedback. Like, 10 hardcore players sounds like 100 hardcore players, and 100 casual players sounds like 10 casual players. So whenever you see a lot of people that are really vocal about something, that doesn't necessarily mean they're the majority.
Just released, and I'm kinda happy to be there with the initial wave of new players. Because after learning what they can do, I definitely don't wanna miss out on what Hoyoverse can do. I missed a lot by not playing Genshin. And I don't want that to happen again. Some people laugh that I'm currently on my gacha game story arc. So yeah. See you on the Astral Express, because there is a lot to talk about.
There you go. Yeah, FOMO aware. FOMO at its finest, though. Well, if people are enjoying FOMO, then it doesn't matter. I think that's really what the difference is. If people don't care and they're enjoying themselves and they're happy, then does it really matter if it's FOMO or not? I don't really think that it does. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. They know how to get and keep people excited. Well, yeah, hot girls. Like, the thing is that, like, there's somebody... Whenever I see this, like everybody knows why I would play this game. But there are other people and they like other characters too. And that's why the games are popular, is they have different reasons. I like more characters in Star Rail than Genshin. Well, I'll have to play it more to find out for myself. But yeah. Why is Kafka's face hidden? Sus. I feel like she's obviously like a... there are characters like Kafka and March 7th that are basically, all they do is they exist to simply move the story forward. They are either an element, like they are basically they are either malevolent chaos or ambivalent chaos or some form of stupidity. You know what I mean? And so that's why you have those characters. Those characters are in every gacha. Well, if you think about it, those characters are in almost every story. You always have characters that kind of move the story forward and cause stuff like that to have happen. Actually, let me link you guys this video before I go. Necrit's made very, very good videos about the Riot MMO, and whenever that comes out in 17 years, I look forward to seeing his videos about the lore for that game.